Welcome to Wine Soundtrack International. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Alison Levine, and today I'm sitting with Anselmo Guerrieri Gonzaga of San Leonardo Winery in Trento, Italy. Anselmo, welcome, and tell us about San Leonardo.
Hello, Alison. Listen, San Leonardo is our family property. It's located up in Trentino, which is the region of mountains of Italy. It's where the Mediterranean plains, let's say, and the Alpine climate meet. It's a very ancient estate. It was a monastery 1,000 years ago, and then it has been for the last 300 years in my family's hands. And the wine passion grew to become the only product we make, and it's our passion.
Wonderful. So now up in the Trento area, northern Italy, what are the grapes that you're producing? What are you growing up there, and what are you making?
So we grow only international grapes, and we have been doing so for a very long time. Actually, already in the 1800s, my great-grandfather was collecting vines from all over Europe, from the Rheingau, from the Burgundy, from Bordeaux, and he brought back what he thought was Cabernet Franc, but instead my father discovered to be Carmenere in the late 80s. So for about 100 years we have been growing what we thought was Cabernet Franc, but then discovered to be Carmenere. And then since the 1920s we grow Merlot. And then my father, when he inherited the estate in the 70s, he put down Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wonderful. And how many cases a year are you producing?
So that's a question of cases. I'm very bad at it. But in bottles, we make 350,000 bottles. So
okay, we can do the math. We'll divide by 12 and go from there. And your wines are available in markets all over the world?
Yes, we export in 58 nations worldwide. Even though Italy is still our main focus, we're very focused on Italy, actually. Much more in the last 20 years, we have gathered the majority of our sales back in Italy.
So a family history of 300 years, something you grew up in the middle of and as a part of your life. What is your first memory relevant to wine?
Well, my first, it's difficult to say first memory because I've grown up in San Leonardo all my summers. So cellars, bottles, vineyards, tractors, winemakers, wine talking has always been in our lives. But if I have to remember the first time I really drank wine, that's my first memory, was at my communion when I was in school, and I hated it. I found it disgusting. Probably it was the wine. I hope, at least.
I was going to say, probably was the wine.
And so that's my strongest memory of wine. But wine of the wine world, it's been it's in my heart since I was born. Let's say.
And so, moving on past that communion wine, what is one of the most memorable wines you've ever drunk, and do you remember the occasion?
Listen, well, I've changed recently because it was another wine before, but recently I tried 2003 Montrachet from Domaine Romane Conti, and it's not because I want to be, trying to show off at all. I was invited, by the way, to this tasting, but that was an incredible wine, I must say. It has been really struck me very much. And then the other one was a Klaus Eberbacher Riesling from 1948, I think it was, or back, and which I tasted in the Abbey of Klaus Eberbach in the Rheingau, and that was extraordinary as well.
Wow. Okay, so two of the most memorable wines you drank happened to be a French wine and a German wine. So traveling around the world abroad, what would you say is the best foreign wine you've drunk? Maybe those two excluded, since those were remarkable experiences.
But listen, I've drank all over the place many wines, I must say. One which has been in my heart was Opus 178, which I drank, or 79, well, I don't remember, 78 or 79, which I drank in Opus 1 about 15 years ago, probably, on a trip with all Cabernet producers from all over the world. That was a very memorable wine, and it was beautiful to taste it in that cellar, which is fascinating.
So now you've drunk in Germany, in Italy, in France, in California. Traveling the world abroad, among all the populations, who do you think drinks the best in terms of quality?
Well, I would say that apart from Italian and French and maybe Spanish and German who produce, and Americans who drink so much good wines because they produce it, I would say Japan market is fascinating for the quality, the ability of tasting of the people. It is a very evolved market, I would say.
Really? Interesting. So if we were to come to your home, and I'm sure you have a glorious cellar, probably a cellar larger than any of us can imagine, but if we were to come into your cellar, what would we find? Maybe more in your personal cellar than the winery cellar.
In the winery cellar, you would find 99% San Leonardo, of course. But in my personal cellar, well, you would find many different things, from champagne to lots of Tuscan wines, which are mostly my passion, especially Chianti or Sangiovese, very classic Sangiovese. I'm a great lover of Sangiovese. You would find Percole Torte, you would find Flaccianello, you would find... you would find certainly Sassicaia, which is always a great wine. You would find wines of Feudi di San Gregorio, which are always a wine that I appreciate enormously. Actually, also recently I've just tried their Cabernet-based wine of Campo Le Cometa, which is extraordinary. And so you would find now some bottles of Etna, which is one of my recent passions, and Trebbiano from Abruzzo.
A good smattering of Italian wine. So Is there anything in particular in your cellar that's giving you great pleasure to drink right now?
Listen, I don't have like 12 bottles of each wine. So, or if they were, now they are not. But I have a huge variety because I'm quite lucky because I'm gifted wine most of the time rather than buying it, because we exchange lots of wine with friends and producers when you go about. So it's difficult to say one wine which is extra. Well, I must say I bought 6 bottles of Celoso, and the first ones were okay, but then I left them. They were about 7-8 years from the gorgement, and the last one I tasted it was 2 weeks ago. It was wonderful.
But no more of that to enjoy.
No, unfortunately, it's all gone. What a pity, what a pity.
So looking at all the grapes of the world, do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety?
No. It's impossible to say Burgundy, or we'll say Pinot Noir, Nebbiolo for the Piemonte, Sangiovese for the Tuscan, Cabernet for the Bordeaux. I'm a great lover of Cabernet, I must say, when it's well made, because I'm really not a fan of big wines. It's really not my style of oaky, big wines, chewy wines. But when Cabernet is made well and it's elegant, it's a wonderful variety. But I'm a great lover of Pinot Noir as well, very much.
Mm-hmm. So no perfect variety. What is your opinion on wine critics and scores?
Wine critics and scores have changed enormously. So we went from the 80s, where a wine critic could change the life of a wine, to a time now where we have many different opinion makers, very professional opinion makers, rather than in the past where there were very few who had and who were often behind the newspaper name. Now today, thanks to the web, of course, we have so many influential independent critics. It has changed enormously, the approach. I think I'm much more I will always say I'm a story. I taste stories rather than just wines, and just ratings.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So as a wine drinker, and you have already discussed some of the great wines you've drunk, but if you had to choose, red, white, or rosé?
Definitely red.
Still or sparkling wine?
Still.
Little hesitation.
Yes, I love champagne and I love spumante, and it's the latest project I've been working on. I'm coming out with a spumante at the end of this year. So,
ooh, how exciting.
Yeah, it is very much for me. It's quite thrilling, the time. So I'm in love with wine. It's difficult to choose. It depends on the occasion, but red wine is the wine for me.
And with red wine, do you feel that it needs to be paired with certain foods, or do you not follow rules and just drink red wine with whatever you want?
Absolutely. I never follow rules. I think that if you have to pair it, you need a great sommelier and a fantastic cook. And then it is a great experience, but you need somebody who's a pro to do that. Then, of course, there are some combinations that never work well, but I always have one rule, pair it with friends.
That's a good rule. I like that rule. And so when you're pairing with friends and you drink a little too much, sometimes we have a little headache the next day. Do you have any secret remedies you can share with us? Or
I must say that when I drink lots of wine, and this happens very often in China, when I have to go there, the point is, Alka-Seltzer before going to bed, or aspirin, and drink like 2 liters of water. That's the only thing for me to really, but I have to drink them before going to bed. Then if not, it's too late. In the morning, it's gone. I'm dead.
So, for someone who's never tasted your wine, what do you think they're missing out on?
Classic. It's classicisms. San Leonardo is an extremely classic wine, extremely elegant wine, and has never changed its soul since its birth in 1982 by the hands of my father. And this is exactly what we keep on doing, trying to maintain as best as possible the idea behind the wine, its soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were telling me the other day that it was commented by Monica Larner that, well, tell the story.
Yes, both Monica Larner, which is a wonderful lady, and Jancis Robinson, which is a wonderful lady as well, have said great words about San Leonardo. And apart from the scoring, which is very flattering, I don't know if you say flattering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, and obviously for our estate and for my father, their comment on keeping the style of wine through years and years of making, that is definitely what has really touched us, because that is showing of the understanding of the wine, the profound understanding behind. So I'm very glad of that.
So if space aliens were to land on your property, what wine would you present them with?
Obviously the San Leonardo, also because they would make us prisoners probably, and San Leonardo is the patron saint of prisoners, so he was helping prisoners, so that's the wine I would present them.
Perfect. So we look at climate change happening. We look at certain climates that change all the time and other wine regions that are pretty steady. What is it like where you are? Do you find that vintage variation varies from year to year? Are there more similarities?
Listen, it's something that really, I would say, makes us all very, very scared. Climate change is a reality. Then we don't know if it is only driven by obviously by pollution. That's for sure, that there is a very big responsibility to us. I would say 90%. Then maybe there is also warming up time of the earth. We see this tendency of more than just having warm climate, it's also the violence of the climates changes. This year, right now, in these days, we're having more than 40 degrees Celsius in Trentino, which is enormous for us. We're quite lucky because we still have lots of water in the soil, and we have the mountains, and it's very lush and green, and we have limited sun because of the mountains. So we get the cold air at night, and so we can still manage of having wines which are 13 degrees alcohol, which is great for us. Mm-hmm. But it's obvious that we are very, very in anxiety for this.
Mm-hmm. And so do you see each year more variation happening?
No, we try to, we were having Pergola and Anguillot and Spercorden, we can manage to maintain the freshness of the wines, a low alcohol, but definitely, I mean, we will have to look into this more and more. And for example, we make no exfoliation anymore of the plants to protect so we have already started working on the heating up of the weather.
Mm. Do you have any good luck rituals that you do to start harvest or throughout harvest?
No, to tell you the truth, no. We have one ritual which is very important in San Leonardo. It's the 6th of November to celebrate the end of the harvest. And the 6th of November is also the San Leonardo's Day, the saint patron. So we have a mass all together in the estate. We have the We give the holy water to the cellars, and then we have big dinner and lots of drinking of great wines, by the way, which everybody brings. And so that's our ritual, and we hope. So if there is a really a very bad time, we light a candle in the church.
So when you were a little boy, did you always want to make wine? Was this something you knew you had to do or that you wanted to do, or was there something else you wanted to be when you grew up?
Listen, for sure, I was not really questioning myself when I was a kid. And then obviously when I arrived to 20 years old, you start questioning. I was very interested in life, and I wanted to be an adventurer. I wanted to explore the world, but I ended up working for my father for many different reasons. And maybe the first years were a bit hard because maybe it wasn't a full choice. I was still very interested in life than just being closed in the countryside, let's say. But then I loved it because I'm a fan of the countryside. I love animals and I love wine. And winemaking in the countryside is by far the most fun thing you can do and the most beautiful.
And when you're not making wine, what do you do in your free time?
I ride motorbikes, I go sailing, skiing, and obviously I'm a lot with my daughter and my wife, which I love very, very much. And they follow me often in my trips, or they stay in San Leonardo. But if I have to see a passion which is not the family, well, riding motorbikes is my great passion now.
Through the countryside.
Yeah, obviously.
And as an Italian, who is your favorite team? Inter Milan. Yes, it's from a different region.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And even if I'm not a great football fan, I'm a fan of Inter.
And so with Inter, and I can say this, when Inter wins,
yes,
not if, but when, which of your wines would you want to present to them? The same you would give to the aliens?
Definitely. I mean, we are all about San Leonardo. That's our creature. It's the one created by my father, and it's the one we love the most. It's difficult not to present them with something. Then we love every wine we make, of course, but the San Leonardo obviously holds a special place.
Absolutely. And for those romantic evenings that you might steal away with your wife, which wines are you going to be opening up to enjoy between the two of you?
Well, we drink a lot of Pinot Noir together because my wife is not a white wine drinker nor a bubbles drinker, unfortunately. But she's a great lover of red wine, so we love to open up Pinot Noir, and I serve them always a little bit fresh because I'm a great lover of cool wines, not warm wines.
Absolutely. So, going back to a long generation with your family in this business, what would you say the best piece of advice is you ever received?
You mean on the business or
in life?
Listen, what I really understood is that experience is something that comes with time. And my grandmother, which was a very smart lady, very, very wise, she always told me the experience of others is like a comb for bold people. No use. So this is definitely something that I always brought with myself. And the older I'm getting, the more I understand how every year you gain so much experience. And looking back, probably we also need to don't always have that much experience because we wouldn't move.
Right.
But a lot of errors can be avoided if thinking and experience comes with time, unfortunately.
That's good advice, though. I like that. And if you could offer our listeners some advice, what would you share with them?
But for sure, I mean, always my grandmother, who was very important to me and is still very important in my life, in the memories she left me, always gave me the two advices. One was the experience of others, it's like a comb for bold, and the other one was the destiny has always more fantasy than what we have. So this is definitely the two things that I recommend in life.
So you're just passing on the same wonderful advice. And if you look back at the years of the work that you've been involved in the winery, what would you say your proudest achievement is to date?
The proudest achievement for sure is having brought the image of San Leonardo and the name of San Leonardo in many, many more markets than previously, and having given to our production of wine I would say the allure that maybe at the time my father could not, for different reasons. Firstly, because he was coming from Trentino, which is not a region of great wines, and it was difficult. And then also, media were very different at the time, and communication marketing existed, but maybe they were not the focus of my father, who is a great wine producer and still is. And we work side by side, even if he's obviously slightly older now and leaves to me the most boring things, let's say. But apart from that, no. I would say that my biggest achievement has been promoting the wine in the right way and maintaining the essence of the wine and turning the property organic, which has been a big achievement in the last 5-6 years. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm a great lover of the soil. And I'm very convinced that the soil is the taste that you find in the wine after.
So complete this sentence for me. A table without wine is like?
A plate without salt.
So now I want you to imagine that the paparazzi take a picture of someone eating at a restaurant. And through the window in that picture is a bottle of your wine, your famous wine, sitting on the table. Who is the person you'd want in that photo drinking your wine?
Monica Bellucci. Or Charlotte Casiraghi, apart from my wife, obviously.
But she drinks your wine, so...
all the time, and she loves it. So, and, Ilaria, I love you, Don't get mad.
You've traveled a lot in the world. What is one winemaking region that you are aspiring to travel to next?
Going back to Etna, which is a lovely, lovely, lovely place. And it's very interesting. It's so dramatic, I would say, the setting. Even though also Napa Valley is a place which I love. It's so... the colors are so strong there, and it's beautiful.
And so if you were being sent off to a deserted island with all the wines you've spoken about and all the wines you get to drink, what are 3 wines you would take with you?
Now, that's a big question. How many bottles?
You can have as many bottles as you want, and it's your island, so hot, cold, you don't have to worry about storage or anything. It's just
also temperature controlled cabinet.
Absolutely.
Sand and temperature controlled cabinet. Okay, very well. Well, I would definitely bring a Pergole Torte, which is my favorite red wine. I would bring that's a difficult question, huh? My God. Well, I would bring a champagne like Bollinger Grand Année, which is wonderful to my taste. And then I would bring a nice Fiano of Avellino Feudi.
Okay. So now that we know those 3 wines, I'm going to put another question, put you to the challenge. We're almost finished, but one of the fun things we like to do is pair wine and music. And so you can give me genres, particular songs, musicians.
Okay.
But of your 3 deserted island wines, what would you pair? What would you pair with the champagne, the Bollinger?
Now.
What does it make you think of?
La vie en rose. Quand tu me prends dans tes bras.
Oh, and he sings too. And the Fiano?
The Fiano, I would pair it maybe with, let me see, Lucio Dalla playing Come profondo il mare.
And the Pergola...
Pergole Torte, well, I would pair it with Paolo Conte, which is my favorite singer, with a beautiful Vieni via con me.
Oh. And what about your classic San Leonardo?
Well, apart from Paolo Conte, who's my favorite, the other favorite is Lucio Battisti, which is a great singer of the 70s and 80s of Italy. And I would pair it with Amarsi un po' di Lucio Battisti, which is a song which is just lovely and makes you dream every time I listen it.
That sounds great. I'm ready to put on some music and start drinking wine. Anselmo, I want to thank you so much for joining us today at Wine Soundtrack. And before we go, can you let our listeners know, can they visit San Leonardo? Where can they find your wines and find you?
Well, you can definitely come and visit us. We arrange tours, of course, and you just have to write visit at sanleonardo.it, and somebody will take very good care of you, because we're very careful for our guests. And our wines, well, you can find them a bit worldwide today. You can find them on our website, but I recommend that you buy it from your local, because we never want to steal sales from everybody. You can find them a bit everywhere, but you have to find a good shop normally or a good restaurant.
Well, until we can come visit you, we will find your wines locally. And thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you. Grazie mille.
Grazie a te.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack International. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.